Hello, everyone. Welcome to lesson number 5 of our lectures, which are titled Perfect Harmony, the Torah Blueprint for Humanity's Partnership with HaShem in a Scientific Age. As always, I'll be happy to hear from you. Here's my email below. Please try to follow these lessons in the order in which they appear, because each lecture builds upon the previous matter that we discussed. These are the goals that we set out to reach in these lectures. And these are the tools at our disposal. As we go along, we will begin to discard misconceptions that we may have about HaShem. We will begin to reveal the profound partnership that exists between HaShem and his partners, and we will realize how faith, knowledge, and scientific discovery are partners in illuminating the truth of our existence. So if you recall lesson 4, we have some unfinished business to deal with. So let's quickly review where we stand. In lesson 4, we began to look at the first verse in Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, with the well-known translation, "In the beginning, God," or Elohim, as he is called here, "created the heavens and the earth." We will get into the names for God later on. Elohim is one of them. And as we began to explain in our previous lesson, these translations, for the most part, miss the main point. They do not convey the important messages of the Torah. Therefore, they are a source of major misunderstanding and misconceptions about HaShem and his plan for his creation. We started with the first word, Bereshit, usually translated to "in the beginning." It is derived from the Hebrew root rosh, which can mean first in importance, and so therefore it could mean the head on our body, but it is also translated to mean first in time. And just about all of the translations pick the second option, first in time. Moving along in our review of lesson 4, we gave 2 reasons in our previous lesson why this cannot be the translation that conveys the main Torah message. Reason number 1, the Torah is not a history book. Unlike history books, where the chronological order of events is very important, the Torah wishes to convey Hashem's messages and expectations to humanity and reveal his master plan to humanity. We recall the famous saying of our Torah sages, "There is no before and no after in the Torah." We will see many examples of this as we move along. So do not read the Torah like a history book. Always search for the important, deep messages that Hashem wishes to convey through the Torah text. The second reason why that simple translation is wrong or is not getting to the point is as follows, as we explained in lesson 4. When we apply Rambam's triangles to this issue, which is what the Rambam himself did when studying this first phrase of the Torah, he came to the same conclusion. The main message of this phrase is not to convey some historical fact. The Torah text is in the upper right. The principle of faith, which the oral Torah teaches us, is in the upper left. There is total agreement among Torah scholars that time was a created entity together with all of the other entities of reality. Now, let's look at the established scientific fact, the third vertex of Rambam's triangle. All scientists are in agreement that at the very onset of the Big Bang, physical reality, including time, did not play a role. So here we have our updated triangle. We see in the upper left the principle of the oral Torah. Bereshit means through the process that is of foremost importance. It does not mean in the most fundamental sense and in the deeper sense. It does not mean in the beginning. This led us to rule number 1 of our list of rules for Torah study. Let's review it again. The written Torah conveys its messages on multiple levels. The superficial level of understanding is the simple literal meaning of the text. Deeper levels of understanding reveal the more fundamental messages that HaShem wishes to convey. And as we explained, this is much like the structure of an onion, which consists of concentric layers. We must understand that the Torah delivers its messages on multiple levels simultaneously. The reason for this is to relay Torah messages to everyone on their level. A child will understand the Torah on the childish level. An adolescent can dig a little further. An adult has the capability to go even deeper. This is true for all of humanity as well. Over the ages, humanity is developing in knowledge and sophistication, in science, in abstract thinking, and higher cognitive capabilities. As humanity progresses, it can and does go deeper in the search for truth. So the Torah and its messages have always existed, even before creation, and it patiently waits for us to reveal its deeper messages. The laws of science have always been in place since creation, and these laws also wait for humanity to develop the skills to discover them. This is the essence of Rambam's triangle and this unique approach for understanding the Torah messages. So we finished off our last lesson with this slide, and we asked, what else can we learn about this foremost process? The written Torah does not explicitly explain this. And we also asked, what can science possibly say about this process, given that the Big Bang itself cannot be explained in terms of physical laws? So with these two questions, we finished our review of lesson 4, and we can now move forward. In order to answer these questions, I would like to look at 2 more rules of Torah study. Rule number 2, in many instances, the Torah uses the same word repeatedly to mean somewhat different things. In other words, homonyms. Out of all of the possible meanings, the correct meaning would be found in the teachings of Torah scholars based on the oral Torah, and would also be consistent with its context in the Torah text. And here is rule number 3. The first appearance of any specific word in the Torah is the place where we should study this word in its Torah context in order to properly understand the Torah message that this word is conveying. This rule, rule number 3, has its source in the Kabbalah, the hidden deeper portion of the oral Torah and its understanding of the written Torah. These 3 rules, rule number 1, which we saw in lesson 4, and these 2 new rules, rule 2 and 3, which we just read, are usually not accounted for when translating the Torah. This is a major reason why these translations are usually very off the mark. This is a major source of the confusion and misconceptions that arise when attempting to understand the Torah's messages. So let's do the following. Let's apply these 2 rules that we just learned to our word Bereshit, or its source word, or root word, Reshit, since Bereshit is derived from Reshit. On the left are our two rules, and on the right, we will apply these rules to the word Reshit or Bereshit. So I would actually like to start with rule number 3, which appears in the upper left box. So as we already explained, rule number 3 teaches us to search for the first appearance of any specific word in the Torah. And as we have seen, Genesis chapter 1, verse 1 is the first time this word Bereshit appears. And we have already come to the conclusion that out of the 2 possible meanings, the main point is what I wrote here, through the process of foremost importance. So, the first appearance of the word Bereshit must be conveying to us a much deeper message. The creation is a process of foremost importance. Friends, I need to stress this point again, because it lies at the core of what we are trying to explain. We are in the first verse of the Torah, the main headline. We must understand that the main headline, the top story of the Torah, which is dealing with the topic of our relationship with HaShem, cannot be what this newspaper boy is yelling in this image. It is not some mundane description of what transpired since time started ticking. It is not just, quote, in the beginning, HaShem created the heavens and the earth, and then a list of all the physical entities that were created. Human beings have the capability to figure out the science of what transpired since the Big Bang and actually have made giant strides in understanding what took place since the Big Bang in the universe in general, and here on planet Earth. We do not need to look into the Torah to understand the laws of physics and principles of science. So the newspaper boy is screaming a headline, which is interesting and important, but not the main fundamental, crucial message that the Torah is yelling out to us in its first verse. But you might ask, there is an important point in the headline that we see this boy yelling out. This main headline is that there is a creator, and he created everything. It did not occur without his intentional plan. Isn't this important enough to be the main headline? Why are we putting an emphasis on the word Bereshit to be the main headline? Our answer is as follows. The Torah is putting the emphasis on Bereshit to be the main message. Please note the following. The first verse, as it appears in the Torah, is over here. Bereshit bara Elohim. Note, Hashem's name does not appear first. 2 words precede it. Bereshit bara. Hashem appears only as word number 3 with the name Elohim. So the emphasis is on the word Bereshit. The Torah is emphasizing that the deep intention, the big plan, can be summarized in this first word, the main headline. So the proper translation is, through the process of foremost importance, it was created by Elohim, and so on and so forth. So going back to our question, if the Torah wanted to emphasize as the main headline that it is Hashem who created everything, the Torah would have started off in this way. Elohim would be the first word, bara bereshit. Okay, Elohim created in the beginning, as we see here in this line below. Now, let's look at our rule number 2, which teaches us to look at all of the uses of the word reshit or bereshit and all of its homonyms as they appear throughout the Tanakh. The Tanakh includes 3 parts: the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, the prophets, and the scriptures. I listed on the right many of the appearances of this word, reshit or bereshit. Now, this is not meant to be an exhaustive list, but it does include the important nuances of the word. Specifically, we see 4 different meanings as they appear throughout the Tanakh. Number 1, first in chronological order. Number 2, of foremost importance. Number 3, some combination of wisdom, intelligence, and information. And number 4, the Torah itself. Pay particular attention to the second, third, and fourth use of the word reshit throughout the Tanakh. In at least 6 places, it means of foremost importance. I listed them over here. In at least 2 other places, it means some combination of wisdom, intelligence, and information. In at least 1 other place, it refers to the Torah itself, calling the Torah itself reshit. Now, our Torah scholars were well aware of these homonyms in the Tanakh, and they take examples 3 and 4 to explain what is meant by a process of foremost importance. It means all of the following: a process based on wisdom, intelligence, information, as well as the Torah itself. So to summarize, Torah scholars have translated the first phrase of the Torah to something along the following: through the process of foremost importance, which is some combination of wisdom, intelligence, information, and the Torah itself, HaShem, Elohim, created, and so on and so forth. This is what our Torah sages had in mind when they taught us, and I quote, HaShem looked into the Torah and created the world. In other words, just as a builder looks at the building plans and refers to them when building the building, HaShem used the Torah as the blueprint for creating the world and all of reality. The Torah was created by HaShem before the world was created. So here's our message, our newspaper boy with the real hot screaming headline: HaShem created everything through the process of foremost importance. This process includes wisdom, information, intelligence from the Torah, and so on and so forth. Now let's go back to Rambam's triangle. With our new material that we learned, I updated the top left vertex to include what can be meant by process of foremost importance: wisdom, information, intelligence, the Torah itself. Now, let's look at the established science, the bottom vertex. Note that this vertex is not filled in, and I left this with dotted lines. Since the question is, can modern science, which deals with physical reality, say anything about the initial creation moment, the initial Big Bang? As we already pointed out, according to modern science, this event cannot be described by physical law. All the laws of physics break down at this point. The emergence of laws of physics, of matter, of space, and so on, is a process which emerged together with time as we know it. So the answer is as follows. As of today, science cannot explain the Big Bang event itself. However, there are, as of yet, unproven hypotheses that propose the following. There is something that is more fundamental than physical law, matter, space, and energy, and this entity is the building block, the basic building block from which everything else emerges. Scientists call it information. In other words, matter, energy, all physical laws, and everything that we perceive in reality emerged from this information and nothing else. This has been dubbed it from bit. It, reality, emerging from bits of information. So I filled in the bottom vertex together with dashed lines and a question mark. Since this suggestion is still speculative, it is not an established scientific fact, but certainly a tantalizing one. Perhaps one day it will be proven that information is the basic building block of reality, and we may be able to start closing the triangle. Okay, our time is up for today. We learned some new stuff. We learned to be wary, suspicious of Torah translations since they lead to misconceptions concerning the Torah and Hashem's messages to humanity. We looked at 3 important rules of Torah study that are not accounted for in the translations. The well-known translations are in general superficial and barely scratch the surface of the Torah's true messages. We started taking a deep dive into the Torah itself and started with the first word, Bereshit, which we now know does not mean in the beginning. Stay tuned for more. We're just in the beginning. Shalom, shalom.